Hello, everybody. Thank you once again for joining us here at YOUmake Miami. We're going to bring you this wonderful holiday, pop into the holidays greeting card. And I hope everybody's ready. Even if you don't have all the items, don't feel stressed out about it. You don't have to stress about it. But you'll see, you could rewatch on our YouTube channel. Thank you once again for joining us. Let's go ahead and get started first.
So welcome everybody. We're going to be showing you guys how to come up with some fun and creative ideas for your pop-up cards for the holidays. And even though this webinar is kind of holiday themed, you could technically apply these techniques to any type of card you want to use. So you can apply this to the future as well. And of course, you know that in every webinar we do, we always like to touch up on careers. So I know it sounds kind of weird to think like, well, how can careers relate to pop-up cards? Well, there actually are people who, make these cards for a living. So when you go out to buy a card at the pharmacy for any occasion, somebody had to design that card, right? So there are people who design these cards, but these pop-up techniques can also be applied to children's books. So it's not just for cards. And there are even some artists that do them on a really large scale, and they show their work in art exhibits, which is really cool. And I'm going to show you guys an example of that in a bit. But, we're showing you these cool little techniques today, but who knows, maybe you want to take it further and pursue doing this on your own. There are lots of independent artists that do all kinds of really cool pop-up work, and they freelance doing that, and they put their art in museums. So maybe that's something that you'll be interested in if you're an artsy, crafty type person. And of course, earlier, somebody was asking about the types of materials. We mentioned a couple, but just to give you guys a little checklist to go off of, cardstock paper is the best one that we recommend because it's the sturdiest type of paper. It's very thick and great for cutting out shape. There's also construction paper, which is a little sturdier than regular paper, but not as hard as stock paper. It's kind of an in-between. And of course, you have your adhesives like tape or glue. You're going to need something to cut out the shapes for your pop-up work. It could be scissors, or if you want to be really precise or cut some intricate shapes, you can use an X-Acto knife. But of course, if you're a little youngin, make sure to have a parent's permission or help using an X-Acto knife because they're very sharp and dangerous. And of course, to color your cards, you could use anything from paint. Dinah mentioned something about ink for little stamps, which is another technique we're going to show you guys. There's crayons and colored pencils. But if you also have paper that's already in a solid color, like you're using different types of colored paper with different patterns or textures on them, you may not even need to paint the card. It kind of all depends on what design you go with. And that's what's kind of fun about this, because you can customize the design and make the card however you want. But again, if you're using paper that already has a color to it, you may not even have to paint it. It all depends. And as you can see here, this is one of the examples of a large scale pop-up work that was in an exhibit. You can see just the person holding it, so you can see. And it's just going to show them opening it up and setting it up for the exhibit. Nicole actually knows a little bit about this piece, so I'm going to let her chime in and tell you guys a little bit about it. Nicole?
I actually saw an exhibition of this artist in Washington, D.C. at the National Museum of Women in the Arts. It's a really random, small little museum. And this artist does all oversized pop-up pieces, which was just completely random. I was just really impressed how she first got it printed so large and then attached it to board or something strong enough to hold up when it was opened like a book. And it was just really impressive to me and something I never thought that anybody would do. Why would somebody make a giant pop-up? I don't know, but it's cool.
It is really cool. And this one in particular, you can see it's all about like cherry blossoms. This is in Washington, right?
Washington, D.C., yeah.
Yes, they have the cherry blossoms bloom once a year, which is really nice. Yeah, that's a little preview of how far you can take this if you, I guess, you really set your mind to it. Pop-up comes in all kinds of scales and sizes. And last but not least, I wanted to share this website called bestpopupbooks.com. And this page in particular, you'll notice it says pop-up authors and paper engineers. If I scroll down here, there is a list of artists that do pop-up work. So if you're ever curious to check out these artists, maybe for inspiration or for a little bit of research, all of them have a little tab that says visit website where you can go check out their portfolio and look at their stuff. So there's a lot of cool things here. I'm going to open one up just to take a look as an example. Like, let's see this one. Ooh, this is cool. See how she did like butterflies in this card? It's really cool, like octopus in a book. So there's a lot of artists that do this, and it's kind of like a niche art, but it's really, really cool. You see all kinds of stuff. So that's if you want to check out some other pop-up artists. And then up here, there's all these different tabs. Here they have some videos. I guess they have a YouTube channel, it seems, if you want to check that out. There's also news, I guess, for like latest releases of, I guess, newer pop-up books or pop-up news. They kind of have their own little community, pretty much. And speaking of community, on the community tab, there's like little forums and I guess clubs of people that like to do this stuff. So if you want to connect with other pop-up artists to either just like make new friends or learn the tools of the trade, this is a great place to connect with other people, especially online nowadays since everything seems to be remote. This is a great way to reach out to other people who love doing this too, so you can maybe learn something from them as well. There's also this how-to tab that they have tutorials for different things. But this whole website is a really great resource. There's a ton of stuff here to look for. So that's bestpopupbooks.com. So now that I've introduced you guys to this little pop-up world, told you a little bit about it, some materials, some resources, we're going to get into actually creating our pop-up cards. And we're going to lead with Nicole showing us one of the first techniques. Nicole?
All right, awesome. Thank you, Jaden. So first thing I'm going to show you is just the easiest, most basic of pop-ups. And all we're going to start with is paper. So this is just cardstock, and it was a regular size 8.5 by 11 sheet of cardstock that I just cut in half. That's all it is. So I'm going to teach you how to properly fold. And I know that sounds ridiculous, but it's important. And I actually learned this technique when I did bookbinding. They taught me how to properly fold things, and I've used it so much. So first you line up the corners. So this corner and this corner, make sure they're lined up. And you always go down from the middle. And I use this is called a bone folder. It helps with folding and burnishing. And I'm just gonna, from the front edge, I'm gonna go down into the fold, press down, and then slide out. And I get a nice sharp fold. And whenever you're doing pop-ups, you want your fold to be really elastic, really bendable. So you fold it back that way, and then back this way, so that your fold bends really easily. It's not gonna get stuck and just like, sit there unmoving whenever you want it to bend and pop and fold. So now we have a card. It's got nothing on it, and the very easiest card to make is a square pop-up. And all we need to do is cut a parallel line, and I'm going to show you. I'll draw it. So I want 2 lines, and they need to be the same length and just parallel to each other, like that. And then I'm going to cut these lines just using scissors, and I'm just cutting the lines that I drew. There we go. And now you can see it's still holding on right here. When I open up this card, nothing happens. So I have to, with my finger on this side, I'm pushing my square through to the front, and I'm just pushing it over. And while I push the center, I'm gently closing the card, and then I press the seam right here so that I get a nice fold right there. And then when I open it, I have a square. It pops. If it goes all the way down, it's flat. And if it closes, it also goes flat so that it seems like nothing's there. And then when you open it, you get a pop-up. And what you can do is glue something to the front. I have this little astronaut guy, and we can glue him right here. Let me show you how that would work. So it just goes up like halfway. So I'm gonna make sure I only put glue about halfway up this astronaut. If I can get the glue right, there we go. I'm just using a glue stick. All right, and then I put the astronaut right there. Press it on. I'm gonna fold it down and press. Make sure it'll stick, and then when I open it up, there's my little guy. And you can decorate this any way you want. I have this yellow paper, so I thought maybe I'd put like yellow stars around it. Maybe I can make a bigger square right here and make a bigger pop-up, and a star will pop up next to the astronaut or something. But that's just the very basic, most basic, easiest card to make. And here I have an example of one that I made out of a photograph. So this was all one photo, and I just cut out the different people in the photo and the lion picture. And then I used the background of the photo to put these hearts over here just to make it match the rest of it. So this just makes a really nice, personal, unique card that you can send people. And I really like the idea of using photos because then it's really personalized. So there you go. Very most basic card. And now I'm going to pass it over to Hector, who's going to show us some awesome sliding cards.
Cards, which are, I guess, like a subset of pop-up cards. And I find them to be super easy to make and also super cool. They're very interactive. So for this project, you will need scissors, a ruler, preferably metal, because we're gonna be using an X-Acto knife. If you don't have a metal ruler, then a regular plastic one will be just okay. We need a pencil just to do your markings and to draw the items that you're gonna be incorporating into the card. An eraser, of course, just in case you make a mistake, or also to erase the marks that you make on the card. Glue, regular white glue is perfectly okay. And for this project, I'm also going to be using mounting tape. This is actually something that is very important. You can use other sources, but mounting tape will give you the best results for this particular type of card. Then you can, of course, decorate your card with markers or color pencil, acrylics, or watercolors. I'm gonna be using cardstock paper of different colors, and also try to use contrasting colors just so that it pops out more. You know, the ones that is your main card is a different color than your elements incorporated. An X-Acto knife, of course, that's a really a big part of this project. If we have anybody who's young, of course, make sure that you get parental assistance when you're using the X-Acto knife, or let them do it, because it's very delicate and you could get injured. And finally, a cutting mat, just to protect your desk or the work area that you're using. If you don't have a cutting mat, then basically anything that protect the desk. So an old piece of cardboard will be perfectly okay as well to use. So yeah, those are the materials that we're gonna be using for this card. Then the next thing you want to do is you want to create a rough sketch of your design. Make sure that you draw out all the little elements that are gonna be incorporated, and take into consideration that both the size and the layout of your moving object. So you wanna make sure that you plan how it's going to look, whether it's going to go from one side of the card to the other one, left to right, or up and down. That's usually the most basic forms of motion, but later on you can go crazy and do like an arc or a circle. There's some really complex cards out there. So definitely think about how it's going to look before you start moving your objects around. You don't want to get the object outside of the card area. And this is a little sketch that I did for this demonstration. It's a little Frosty the Snowman character. and a little girlfriend. So as you can see, I kind of designed how it's going to move and some of the elements in the background, and I started coming up with some color choices that I was going to use for the card. So what I use for my item is a regular 8.5 by 11 cardstock paper, and you fold it exactly like Nicole mentioned, basically just folding it in half so that you end up with a 5.5-inch card by 8.5 inches tall. And this it's going to open horizontally, as you will see. Now, this is the part that really makes the whole thing come together, creating the slider. So using your measurements that you design on your sketch, you're going to cut out a rectangle and try using the same color that's going to be on the background. For the frosty figure, I made the mistake of using a different color, and that's basically going to make it stand out a little bit more. If that is your choice, then certainly you can do that. But in the picture that I'm going to show you at the end with a rocket, I use the black color so that it blends with the color in the background so that it looks like the rocket is in space. So after you cut in that rectangle, this is the part where you have to use the X-Acto knife. So you're going to be creating that little cutout rectangle inside. That is about 1/4 of an inch in thickness. And the length, of course, is going to vary on how much you want the object to move. So for this part, you're definitely going to be using the X-Acto knife to make the precision cut. You don't want to use scissors because scissors are very, you're going to bend the paper a lot if you use scissors. So again, try using the X-Acto knife. And if you're underage, of course, get your parent to help you with this. Then after that, you're going to be drawing out the other elements, the parts that are not going to be moving, sort of the characters, for example, in my card or any background items that you need. You can definitely use your markers or your color pencils or any of those to color in the details of the characters that you have. And finally, you can cut them out and paste them inside the main card element. So I also drew and cut out a little tree, and I did the little segment so that it looks different. And for this card, I incorporated the tree so that it folds together kind of in the middle so that you can look at it from different positions when you open the card. So that was like a nice little detail that I included. And this is how it looks. So these are basically the non-moving items. I cut out the little white part for the snow. There's a little frozen lake, the little pine tree, and on the sides I have the two figures, the little snowman and the snow girl. So this is the part where you're going to be assembling the slider. So what you're gonna be doing is you're gonna be cutting 4 small squares and make sure that they are slightly bigger than that hole that we cut inside the slider. So those squares are going to be going on the back side. Of course, the front side is the moving object. And make sure that you glue those little squares together because you're going to be doing like a little sandwich, basically. You're going to be using on one part, the front part is your design. And on the back side is that little squared element, which is basically just going to hold it together in place so that it doesn't come off when it's moving. And here's a little demonstration. You see the little circle? It's the object that's going to be shown when you open the card. Then I put a little bit of mounting tape that's a little bit thinner than the cutout space for the slide. And those are the little 4 squares that I glued together and attached once it's all together. So this is how it's going to look when you test it out. So that's basically how it looks when it's moving around. Then once you test it out, make sure that everything is okay. You're gonna use some more mounting tape you're gonna be cutting out some small strips and attaching them to the underside for the part of the slider. When you cut out the tape, just make sure that's thinner and it doesn't bleed over onto the edges. Again, you can use scissors or you can use the X-Acto knife for this part. And this is going to be how you're going to be attaching the slider before you put all of those elements together. And again, once this is how it's going to look in the back, you see we're looking at the back of Frosty, then the sliding component, the slider. I also, for this particular one, I use some extra mounting tape just to do kind of like a little trail so that that little square doesn't wiggle around too much or move around. Um, that's just to create some extra support so that when the Frosty moves, he's not, you know, wiggling around too much. And this is how it looks once it's finalized and put all together, and you remove the little mounting tape. It has a little sticker that you remove in the back. And so this is how it looks once you test it out. So I wanted to make sure that when you play it or when you move the object, the little hands come together. That was part of how I planned it when I was creating the original sketch. And I wanted to show you a different one. This one is a similar idea, but I used a black cardstock for the background for space. And if you notice in the center, that is a little black strip, the slider. So I made sure that I colored that in so that it blends better. And I even included a little arrow that I put just underneath the top of the object, which in this case is the little rocket, so that it's easier to pull the object. You can move it from any part, the center or the bottom, but sometimes you want to make sure that the person who gets the card knows exactly where they're supposed to pull and push. So this is how the rocket looks. And instead of going, of course, left to right, this one's going up and down. So this is how it looks. And also I wanted to add, I didn't get a chance to do it on this one, but when the rocket moves up and you see the little trail of smoke and the little fire, you will also get a little message. You know, that's how you will come up with your creativity. So it's like a nice little reveal. In this case, I was gonna type in reach for the stars, but I didn't get a chance to quite finish the card. So that's pretty much it when it comes to slider cards. If you have any questions, you can type in the chat. Let me see. Where are the squares? Oh, okay. Let me show you the little squares. Let's go back. I saw that there's some messages from Anne. So I cut off some strips of, and you see in the picture in the top left. I basically just folded it in twice. First in half and then once again in half, and I just cut off the little squares. That's just so that it's thick enough because it's going to create like a little sandwich. So all four on one side, yes, all four of those will be attached to the back. After you see the bottom picture where I have the little circle and there's mounting tape. So those four squares are going to go, once you remove the little sticker from the back of the mounting tape, they're gonna attach there because that's what's gonna hold everything together on the back so that it doesn't fly out or move around. That's why you gotta make the four squares a little bit bigger than that little track that we created when we cut off the part with the X-Acto knife. So I hope that kind of makes sense for you guys. So now I'm going to pass it over. So Dinah's going to show us how to do some cards using stamps.
Thank you so much, Hector. Thank you, Nicole. Thank you, Jaden. So one thing that I did, I actually created these little stamps right here, so that I can make like these cute little drawings and whatnot. So I added, it's a mitten, even though Hector insists that it's a boxing glove. It's not a boxing glove. And this is the little heart. And of course, I had to use a larger cork because for the Christmas tree. And I did a star as well. And this one I did not do. So basically what I did, this is where I said that it's a little difficult for me to show you live because it's a lot of trial and error. Basically what I did is I drew what I wanted on the cork itself. And with the X-Acto knife, you do have to carve it out. So kids, if there's any kids here, please do not try with the X-Acto knife. Let your parents take over that, please. Adults, again, you too be careful because things can happen. So let's suppose that you don't have an X-Acto knife and you still want to create a stamp, or you don't want to use an X-Acto knife. I use the craft foam. You see how it's thick. And what I did, the thing with this one is a little difficult to draw really small figures, right? So you have to kind of like trace the cork first, the circle, and then try to stick to drawing within that circle. So I did the heart, and now I cut out 2 so that it adds thickness to it. At home, you're probably going to have regular glue, like maybe some glue sticks. Well, I have here a glue gun, sorry. For the sake of live webinar, because it's a little difficult to let the other glue dry out, right? I would need some time. So I'm just gonna use the glue gun for that purpose. So I'm gonna glue it to the other end. Right here. And then you add it right at the top. And there you go, you have your very own heart stamp. You see how you need that width right there? And then I also created this little ink pad, I'm sorry. So I added the colors. This is just the foam that I had just lying around, or you could even be a sponge. I glued them down to this little piece of wood that I found. So I didn't have to really buy anything. Maybe if you don't have ink, this is specifically India ink. So this would be fine to use. But let's go ahead and create a Christmas card because that's what you are here for. And that's what we're here for. So again, I use this watercolor paper, right? So let's create a little Christmas wreath. So what you're going to be using, what you're going to start with, obviously make sure that you're doing it on the right side. You want to start with just a circle. Doesn't have to be perfect. Just a very light circle. You see, you can't even really see it because it's very, very light, right? So now that we have that, I'm gonna make this Christmas wreath with the Christmas trees. So let me show you. So if you have too much ink, it's excess ink, that's okay. You could just dab it on a piece of paper that you don't care about. And let's go around. Let's see. Making sure that the tip of your Christmas tree as well and the end of it fall right on the line, on the circle line, right on the middle of it, okay? So let's do that. And just move it around in a circle, little by little. And if you have to go back and get some ink, that's okay. Make sure you kind of add pressure throughout the whole entire stamp so that you could really see the print of it, right? You could see that. Gotta add a little bit more. So this is not necessarily a pop-up card, but you could make it a pop-up card, just like how Nicole showed you. And you could decorate the front of it as well. Let's go around in circle. And you know what? I really think that Christmas cards are amazing because especially nowadays, you know, everybody's going maybe through a little bit of hard time. Receiving something in the mail, like a nice homemade card, maybe for your grandparents, aunts and uncles, maybe you live away from family. I think this really adds a cute little touch to letting them know that you care and somebody's thinking about them, right? Let's continue doing that. I don't know about you guys, but I personally love the holidays. Okay, so I think we got this cute little wreath. Now I'm gonna use, not my boxing glove, I'm gonna use the heart. And let me go ahead, oh, I don't have ink. So now, if you do have the ink, make sure you shake it well. And then add some it. And stamp the heart. And so now I'm gonna make the bow at the top of it. So what I'm gonna do, I'm not gonna press it down straight. I'm gonna do like a little bit of a curve on the side, right? Just a little bit of an angle there. Let me see. There it is. And then the other one. Ooh, I didn't really like that one, so let me try to go back on top of it. There it is. I kind of want to add more trees to it because I want to make that wreath a little thicker to it. So, you see. So please let us know in the chat, what are you thinking? What do you think you're gonna make at home? Maybe you can make it for your parents. Parents love this type of stuff. So there you go. You have your very own little Christmas wreath. Do any of you, I have this other one that I wanted to show you as well. I'm gonna use the other side just to not waste things, you know? So I could use it with the star. So I'm gonna use several little stars. I'm gonna use, let me put one here. I love this little star stamp, it's so cute. And it's great just to do random little decorations with them. Oh, maybe I shouldn't have put it at the bottom because the tree is not gonna fit all the way in the bottom. Wasn't thinking about that. So I'm gonna put the little Christmas tree here. Probably needs more ink. Let me see. And I'm not gonna stamp the bottom one because it doesn't fit. But you see, you get a nice, cute little stamp there. Or that, I actually made this one earlier. I think it came out a little better, this one. Let me know what you guys think. Please let us know in the chat. And yeah, that's about
Okay,
it.
I am going to be showing you one last pop-up card. It's technically not a pop-up, it's a flip card. So this is what we start with, and we pull this tab, and it flips. And I just think they're so fun. And these are really great because you can get a lot of messages on one card. So like this was a picture that I cut into strips so that it would work on here. And I'll show you how to do that. But you can put messages on the front of the pages. You can put messages on the backs of the pages. You can put messages on here and here. Like you can put messages all over this thing. So if you have a lot to say or a lot of pictures to share, this is a great card to make and send someone. And it's really unique. Nobody expects to get something like this. It's weird. So, I mean, there's that. So let me show you how to make it. Okay. So we start with a very long strip of paper. This is actually art paper. I wanted it to be more flexible because it's going to be bending a lot. So I thought my cardstock was a little too hard, a little too thick, and I was worried that if it kept bending like that, it would eventually break, and I don't want it to do that. I want it to keep strong. So art paper and then cardstock. So this cardstock, oh, you're asking what it's called. Let me show you. I actually got it out of this book. Cards that pop up, flip, and slide, and it's really great, this book, and this project is in it. And if you're interested in checking out this book, it gives you like very specific instructions on like measurements and how to do this. So a great book to get. And I actually had I had 3 others checked out that I was getting inspiration from that were really great. So our library has some really great books that you can check out if you're interested. What is this called? In this book, it's called a flip card. So, okay, so what we're gonna need is this rectangle, and it's about 3.5 inches wide and maybe 6 inches long. It's not very big. So this strip of art paper, I just cut down the length of the art paper, and I cut it about 2.5 inches wide. This is just down the length of the cardstock, also about 2.5 inches wide. And then these little cards, we have 5 of them, so that we can make 5 pages that flip. So I have 5 cards, and they are just slightly bigger than, slightly wider than the strip of white paper, this art paper. Okay, so this is the materials that we need. And the first thing we're gonna do is this is gonna be a barrier. So I want this to go perpendicular to my rectangle. This thick rectangle is the base of my card. So that's this part right here where everything rests on. This is the base. This is my barrier. It's this perpendicular piece right here that keeps, see that? It keeps these pieces from jumping to the other side like that. So this barrier goes perpendicular to the large rectangle. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna just measure this, eyeball it. I don't like to measure things, so I just eyeball everything. So I'm gonna fold it over the edge of my large rectangle, and then see how we've got this flap over here. That's where I'm gonna glue it down eventually, but not yet. And then I'm going to fold this edge over like so. And I don't need it this long. This is a little bit too long, and I'm worried it would just bulk up my card. So I'm gonna cut off the end like that. And that way we get this barrier right here, and you can see it's open, and we can put this in it, which is what's gonna happen. So yes, living dangerously, not measuring, that's how I roll. What we're gonna do here is we're gonna glue this piece onto here like that. So first I'm gonna line it up edge to edge, and I'm going to use my pencil, here it is, to just draw where the edge of that blue paper is so that I know where to put my glue. It's hard to see, but right there. I just wanted to be able to do that so I would know where to put my glue, and here's my glue stick that I'm going to use all over that square. And then I'm going to place it on my barrier right in the center. It really actually, well, never mind. It should be in the center. I was going to say it doesn't matter, but it matters. It should be in the center. Okay, so I line it up edge to edge, press it down, and this is the top of my card. What I need to do now is measure out lines. So I'm just going to use this as a straight edge because I don't have a ruler. And ideally you would measure this because it would make it more even, but we're going to do lines in even measurements. In the book, it's 3/8 of an inch, but I don't have a ruler, so I'm just going to eyeball it. And I'm going to measure about that far and make sure these lines are parallel. And then draw a line, and there's one. And this is my barrier between the cards and this perpendicular barrier. So nothing is gonna go there. And then I'm gonna go, this is, whoops, number 2. Same with the part. Number 3. Same with the part. Number 4. Same with the part. Number 5. And I'm drawing 6. I have 5 cards. I need 6 lines. So you can do fewer or more cards. And just remember that whatever cards, I know it has measurements, I'm just lazy. So just remember that however many cards you have, you're going to draw one line extra. And then, now that we have our lines, we're going to make folds on each of those lines. So here's my first line right there. Make sure I fold it. I'm just going to do finger fold really quick so that we can just get these all folded like so. Do. And this paper, I'm pretty sure it was a mixed media paper, so it's not as thick as watercolor paper, but it's still got a nice weight to it. Okay, this is my last line. The nice thing too about drawing lines is that it scores it for me. I'm gonna go back and do all these lines again with my bone folder so that they're nice and creased and really flexible folds. So scoring is great whenever you are making folds, because that way you can mark where you're going to do the folds before you actually do them. And then it's easier to actually do the folds. So just drawing a pencil mark will make a score, which is just an indent in the paper that lets you know where to fold it. Okay, so this is how it's going to look once we put it on our paper. Before we attach this to the background, we're going to attach our pages. So we have 5, and I am using this, I don't even know what it is. It's like strips of glue, which is really convenient. So if you have double-sided tape, that works really well. And most people don't have this. I don't even know why I have this. So you can use glue stick. It's a little bit messier. So just be careful whenever you're putting it on your paper, because you want each of these pages to fit very carefully within each of your folds. So one page is going to go right here. And so be very careful with the glue, because it could get messy. And if it's messy, it won't be as smooth of a flip. So I'm using this, and I'll show you. We leave this one clear. We don't want to do anything on our first fold. We're starting on our second fold. So I'm going to put a line of glue right there. I'll put a page right up to my line and hanging over equal amounts on both sides of my white paper. Okay. The next one, whoop. Glue, and page, like so. And again, you can do as many or as few pages as you want. 5 is a nice number, because too few, you don't really get the full effect of the flip. It's not very exciting. And too many, and the flip might not work in the end, because it's just too much work on your paper, or just not enough space. So you can do as much or as little as you want, but just be aware of what you're doing. It does look like correction tape, you're right. And I actually have a correction tape that looks like this, so I get them confused sometimes. But yeah, I don't even know what it's called. It's just a glue thing. And I thought it was double-sided tape, but it isn't. It's just dots of glue that come out. It's really weird. All right. So now we have all 5 attached, and we can just hold it right here and test it and make sure it works. Yay, success. And you can see how each page is attached to that little section of fold that we made, which is pretty cool. Okay, and now to finish it off, well, first I'm going to glue down the edges. So make sure it's placed where you want it to be. And then I'm going to keep it in place and use some scrap paper to glue this down. And then I'm going to grab my glue stick really quickly glue down these flaps to the back. Whoops, my glue just fell out. That's fun. Okay. All right, so there's one flap. Here is the other flap. Again, running out of glue stick. Okay. All right, so we've got our flaps glued down, and now it will stick. Yay. This is too long for me. I don't want it that long, so I'm just gonna trim it just a little bit past my card, so like right there. And then I like to fold it so that people know that they should be grabbing it. So it's like a little handle, like this. I think that makes it just more convenient to hold. So I'm done with that, done with that. And then the last thing to do is decorate it. So literally you can do anything you want with this. So this was a picture that I cut into strips. And I just think it's really fun whenever you've got a picture, like this one's pretty cool. I don't even know, a satellite. And I plan on making one of those flip animations. Do you guys know what those are? It's just a different picture on each page that makes it, when you flip it really fast, it looks like it's moving. So I plan on doing a flip animation for this one. This one was a different picture that is cut into strips. And then when you flip it, it says, hello, lovely day. So you can decorate this any way that you want, and they're just a lot of fun. And the way that you would do that is just by taking these and gluing that on each edge of your page, and then decorating the pages really any way you want it all. So that was all I had. Thank you guys. I hope you enjoyed this little tutorial. And I'm going to pass it back to Dinah.
Thank you very much, guys. Thank you so much, Nicole. That was amazing and great, like always. Hector, thank you so much. And Jaden, of course. And I hope everybody enjoyed it. And maybe you want to share with us what you created at home or what you're about to create, your ideas, your thoughts. But thank you very much for joining us, and we'll see you next week. Don't forget to register. Bye, guys. Yes, we will be doing holiday decorations next week, so stay tuned. Living dangerously, for sure. Bye, guys. Take care.